Okay. Well, the last one I've got to talk about in this half of our South by review is Zero Charisma. And this is another one that I wasn't really forcing myself to see. In fact, I think
you had something else because I was going to go see
it. But then I heard people talking about it. I think originally I was going to go see The Burning Man Story, but then I heard people talking about it. That's the other great thing about South by. You hear the other people when somebody says to you, "Hey, what have you seen that's good?" Then you hear what they saw that was good. And I heard about Zero Charisma like 4 or 5 times before I saw it.
But at the same time, you've seen stuff and people are talking about it and you really like that, but then they hated it and you're like, why did you you try to argue and it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
They hated it or they liked it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But yeah, so Zero Charisma is directed by it's co-directed by Katie Graham and Andrew Matthews. It is about a tabletop game master, and he sort of rules his game group with an iron fist. This is really all he has in his life, is what we learn about him. And one of his players basically is about to lose his wife and quits the game. And this is so unfathomable to this guy. His character's name is Scott. It's just so unfathomable that you would stop playing the game for your wife. How could you possibly – that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So he goes through the process of finding a new person to play this game. And it's a game that they've been playing for 3 years essentially. And he thinks this is going to be – he calls people and he's like, hey, you won't believe your luck. You're the first person – oh, and then they hang up. So eventually what happens is you learn as we go that he's basically just alienated everyone in his life. Like no one really wants to be around this guy. Even the people who are playing this game don't really want to be around this guy. But what he finds is this one random dude he's never met before, and he's sort of like a cool hipster type guy, and he invites him to come play the game just because he's desperate. He needs someone to play. And this guy comes in, and he's Mr. Cool. Yeah. He's got a cool job. He writes for this cool music or gaming blog. He goes to cool parties. He's got a pretty girlfriend. And he can argue about Star Trek versus Star Wars and really, really intelligently. And Scott, the game master, cannot deal with this. He invited this guy in, and now it's like everyone likes him more than they like Scott. He's not the center of attention anymore. And he's clearly a deeply damaged person. The movie makes this is abundantly clear. This is not where, you're not – it's hard to root for this guy. You're kind of rooting for him to kind of get out of his own head and just deal with it. It's like he can't relate to people on a normal level. I saw another film that sort of started with this same premise of people playing Dungeons and Dragons and how the game is from their perspective. It was called Darkness Rising. It was at the cinema last year. Stark contrast. Darkness Rising was this very sort of light and fun, and they were dealing with a serious thing, but it was sort of like you always wanted them to do well. You always expected them to make it all work. In this movie, it's dark. It gets really dark, and you're really wondering what is this dude capable of? What can he actually do? And it builds and builds. It's really good. It's really good. And the movie just drives this guy down to absolute rock bottom. And then at the end of the film, you feel like, was that a happy ending?
Yeah.
It seems like a happy ending,
for
but
him.
Then you look at it and you're like, is that really the life is that the best he can hope for? It's hard to tell. But it was good. I liked it a lot.
You seem conflicted, but it seems like I might have enjoyed it more than you. I get that vibe because I actually wanted to see it, but again,
you know what? I loved it.
Okay.
There was definitely a point during the movie where I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, but
you never really sort of confirmed that for me. I got a weird vibe when you were talking about it.
It was very, very good.
Okay.
It was an excellently made film. But it's, you watch it thinking it's going to be this fun thing about gaming, and then it's like this really dark kind of film. Okay. But yes, it's a very good film. But A Place for Film is recorded at WFIU Studios in Bloomington, Indiana.